This is VertVixen, and you're watching O-Face Wrestling.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I'm joined by co-host Brianna, and we are joined by Miss VertVixen. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
Doing well. So thank you for joining. We're just going to go ahead and get right into the questions. As I said before, try not to give you too much of a generic question, or maybe this may be generic. Who knows? But it won't be the how did you get into wrestling for the 15 millionth time. So, I was interested in your name, VertVixen, and I was curious to know kind of like the backstory of your name, because it actually is fairly interesting, and I like hearing people's backstory on why they choose to be called what they get called in the ring.
Well, it's actually it's funny. It's not a typical wrestling name, right? Like I almost didn't go with it, but back in the day, I actually was a 3D artist for video games, and so when you put your stuff online, you kind of want to have like a moniker that goes with your name, right? And I just didn't want to use my name. I wanted like a username or a moniker to go with it, and so came up with the idea of vert as in a vertice, which is a part of a 3D model. A 3D model is composed of vertices, edges, faces, or polygons. And so it's like, okay, well, a vert is part of a 3D model. And it was like, what's an alliteration for vert? Okay, well, VertVixen. After like figuring some things out, because alliterations just sound cool, VV, VertVixen, it just kind of worked. So I started with, I had my name for my 3D modeling, and then I took that name when I started doing cosplay and I kept it. And then I built up a whole following doing cosplay and hosting and all this kind of stuff using the name VertVixen. So when I got into wrestling, I originally wanted to change my name and go with something either dedicated to my dad, like Mickey Logan, or go with like Alicia Lynn, which is my first and middle name, try to figure something out like that. But my boyfriend was like, you got to just use VertVixen. He's like, you built up this whole thing with your name. People know you by VertVixen, so you just need to go with it. And it's different and unique, and I'm really glad that I kept it, because I think that it's, once again, it's different. It makes me stand out in a different way. So.
Right, makes you stand out given your background in gaming and your previous profession. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy to remember too versus, something a little bit more complicated or something. So VertVixen, I like it. It sounds really cool too, and like you said, like it came from, you already built up a name through your cosplay and all. And I'm not really my first question for you, but I do want to know, like, what got you into cosplay?
Oh man. I got invited to BlizzCon one year, and I really wanted to wear a costume to BlizzCon. So my friend who had been doing cosplay, I said, hey, I don't know what this cosplay thing is, but I kind of want to wear a costume. I'm not sure what to do. And so she helped me make, I don't know if you guys know World of Warcraft, she helped me make a succubus pet costume, like a warlock pet, the succubus. So she helped me make that for BlizzCon, and I wore it that year, and I was like, why is everybody taking pictures of me? What is this? What is going on? Why do you walk around in costume and you're like the center of attention? And it's such a fun, different experience. And I was like, man, I kind of want to do this more. And so for Halloween that year, I made Codex from the guild, because Felicia Day is like my spirit animal. And I had so much fun building Codex, and it was like, okay, well, what can I do now? And I just found that I would come home from my shoot job doing 3D modeling, and I would do research on how to make costumes. And I just found that I was up till 3 a.m. working on costumes every night. And it was like, it was one of those things that I kind of just fell into and I fell in love with, and I was obsessed with building, and I would stay up for days and days on end just building costumes and making armor. And it was something that I had to do until I burnt myself out. The time, it was amazing.
Yeah, like cosplay is really fun. What was it, 2 years ago? I went to NC Comic Con, and it's kind of like the same thing, just here in North Carolina. And I went as Connor from Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, nice. Nice.
which was pretty fun. But you know, it was the first time I was doing it, and I had that same reaction. I was like, people wanted to take pictures. It was just like, it's a little jarring because it all, you're not used to people like coming up to you and just taking a picture of you normally. And like you, I went home and I was like looking at all the different things that people were doing to make a costume, and it's like people can make things out of anything. It's very interesting what people can do with just normal everyday objects that you don't even think about. Making armors, making wings, making, you know, boots, and you know, what people do with makeup. It's astounding. I love that community. So it's really cool that you got into that, and then also got into wrestling. So it was kind of like, and I'm sure people have asked you this, but what was kind of the point where those two met and was like, well, I can also go do wrestling too. Were you like able to kind of marry the two a bit, like go in the ring and be in character?
It's funny because when I first started wrestling, that's what everyone's like, why don't you just do like a cosplay gimmick where you're like a different character every time you get in the ring? And at first I was like, that'd be really cool and I should do that. And then I realized how much work that would actually take and how much money that would actually cost to have like different gear, and you know, and also too like a different moveset or different persona, because people are like, well, you could go in the ring as M. Bison and you could have a totally different moveset as when you would go in the ring as like Arthas from, you know, World of Warcraft. And I'm like, that's so much. Like wrestling is already hard. Yeah, wrestling is already crazy. They haven't really fully met yet, except for in the sense of a lot of the stuff I've done in front of a camera for cosplay is really translated over for wrestling, with promos and actually being into character, posing for modeling, that kind of stuff. My next gear set is actually going to be basically a cosplay. So I am going to start integrating that in a little bit more, because VertVixen thinks she's a game character. Like you know, she thinks that she's a video game character. And so I want to start kind of portraying that a little bit more in the ring, not necessarily having like a different gear set for like every time I go out there, or even just trying to cosplay every time I go out there, but having the different sides of VertVixen and having the different game characters that have influenced her in the ring. So they are starting to meet and meld, but in the beginning they just didn't at all. It was too separate. It was just, it's wrestling and cosplay, and I burnt myself out so much on cosplay. I still, to this day, I burnt myself out after doing Fury from Darksiders, which was the end of 2018, and still to this day I have not really done any cosplay because I don't like it. I loved it so much that I brightened the flame as bright as I could, and then it just like extinguished. And right now it's this tiny little flame, and I'm trying to get it back, my creative, like, you know, that side, but it's just, I destroyed myself on that. So I haven't really done a cosplay in too long. Yeah, it really is.
It's crazy how like a lot of people don't really know how much time and effort goes into cosplay. Like, you know, if you're not educated, you know, on it, you think, oh, you're just throwing on a costume or something like that. No, it's more than that. A lot of cosplayers actually like create their costumes. They don't just go to what's that Halloween store? Spirit Halloween, buy a costume and put it on. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's also like, it's cool that you can kind of turn it into a job. Like there's a lot of cosplayers who have like Patreons, and they do like 8x10s. Like on my wall I have 2 8x10s by this one cosplayer I bought it years ago, but it's like she's cosplaying as Lollipop Chainsaw in Gears of War. And it can make a lot of money. Negri? What was that?
Is it Jessica Negri?
Yes, the blonde hair. It's funny. But yes, and then they can, you know, translate it to streaming and then get, you know, money and stuff like that from there. So it's actually really cool. I mean, it's something that it ain't for me because I'm not really creative enough, but I think it's awesome, and how just how big and popular it can get. Like Brianna said, just like if you have the right costume that really stands out, you get random people coming up to you, let me take a picture, you know, and it can really build something. Like I used to go to horror conventions a lot, and there was this guy, he dressed up as kind of like a demon, like demonic, like priest, and I saw him there. He was getting, you know, people taking pictures and all. Then I looked on social media, this guy's actually pretty popular, you know, and stuff within those kind of conventions and all. So I think it's really cool, just like how popular and just how like dedicated people get to this, and I like it, but like I said, it's just not for me. I'm not like, I don't like the attention at the same time. Like when I go to like a convention and I just want to do my thing and get out, but that's just me.
I mean, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody, but it's definitely something that if anybody's ever wanted to try, I always recommend do it because it's a very different and very fun experience. And it's interesting you talk about people making a living. I was making a living doing cosplay. I made a living off of it for like 3 years. Companies would hire me to make costumes. I streamed. I would sell 8x10s. Yeah, I would win contests, which would help pay for my rent. It was that kind of stuff. But it was it was my job for a little bit. So it's possible. Everybody, you can do it if you really want to, but burnout is real. It is.
That's cool.
That
So
is
like
pretty cool.
in terms of your experience with like gaming and such, because you mentioned you had done art, what has been kind of your go-to game in terms of like the favorites you like to play? Yeah, any least favorites?
Well, so the go-to game for me has always been Darksiders. I love it so much that I have it. Y'all can see it. It's at a weird place. I have it tattooed on my arm, the Four Horsemen logo. It's one of those games that, like, in fact, it's the reason why I currently work at Gunfire Games, which is my shoot job. But I fell in love with the series, and I've probably played the first and second one way more than anybody should, because it's one of those games where it's just like a hack and slash adventure game,
Right.
But it's definitely been one of those like go-to games in the sense of like, if I just need to like feel awesome and just kind of relax and have a good time, it's a go-to game for me, because it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and I love the lore, and I love the story, and I love all of it. And now I have the honor of working for the company that made 3, and it's just like a really cool. I don't know. It's an old game. I love Darksiders. It's old, but I freaking love it. And you asked, like, it's the first one came out like 2003, I think. 2002.
Oh wow, 17 years ago.
It's been a while. It's
yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know the first one's pretty old, and Darksiders 2 came out like a couple years after that, and then 3 we just released at end of 2018. I think it was like October or November, and my brain is but the first 2, there was a big span between the first 2 and the third one, because the first 2 were technically made by Vigil Games. And when the original THQ went under, Vigil kind of went with it, and then the guys here at Gunfire, they went from being at Vigil, they had a couple other small companies in between that, and then some of them here forged Gunfire Games, and Gunfire made smaller games like Dead and Buried and Chronos VR, which, by the way, the real Chronos non-VR is coming out in December. Which is the prequel to Remnant from the Ashes, which is our latest game. But a lot of information. And but anyway, so they finally were able to bring back Darksiders with Darksiders 3, but that didn't happen until 2018. So long span.
I'm ashamed to say. I'm ashamed to say I've never played any Darksiders games ever. Like, I've heard of the name, but I've never actually like really looked into it. Is it kind of like a, kind of like Fallout, where it's like a kind of like what is it called, like a role playing or something like that game?
It's not really. It's more like the first one is more like Zelda meets. I mean, it's a hack and slash. It's a dark hack and slash game. It's basically a dark Zelda. Is the best way, like Ocarina of Time is the best way for me to describe it. It's got some puzzles. It's got some, there's not really quests. There's a storyline that you follow. It's not open world.
Open world, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, it's not. Darksiders 2 is similar to Darksiders 1, but it has some more role-playing elements in it. And by role-playing, let me rephrase that. By role-playing, I mean like you have more. There's going to be more gear drops, and you can modify your gear and stuff more. But there's not really. It's kind of like an RPG in that, but it's not really a role-playing game. And then Darksiders 3 is a little bit more like Dark Souls-ish. It's where it's more difficult. It's not as hack and slash. It's still hack and slash, but you have to be more precise with your hits, and everything is a little bit more difficult. So it's each game on its own is like an evolution of the other one. It's interesting. They're fun. I recommend them, but you know.
I'm gonna look into that because I always look to get into something new when it comes to gaming. I've been playing a lot of remaster games lately. I love the whole nostalgia feel. Right now I'm playing the Mafia remaster, but I do need to try to get into something a little bit newer. The one question I have for you with gaming is this is kind of like a nostalgia question. Like, what got you into gaming as a kid, and then kind of what were some of your favorite games and consoles growing up?
Zelda Ocarina of Time got me into gaming. My brothers got an N64, and they got Ocarina of Time, and I would slip my way in there and play it on occasion. And that went from me playing it on occasion. They had GoldenEye and other games too, right? But GoldenEye. It went from me playing it on occasion to me like basically taking the console and putting it in my room and playing playing all the time. And I was so obsessed with Ocarina that I had to get all the milk bottles, all the gold skulltulas. I had to get everything. So I probably played that game from start to finish at least like 5 times. You're a kid, right? Like I didn't know what other games I could get. I just had that. So I was like, let me replay this over and over until Majora's Mask came out. My favorite consoles growing up, I mean, the N64 is like a classic, right? You've got all the, like I said, the Zelda series, and then like we would have Mario Party parties where we would just come over and, play Mario Party until your hands freaking like bruised off or calloused off. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The freaking
kid arthritis.
Yeah, exactly. Kid arthritis, exactly. And then the PS2 would be my second one because that had Kingdom Hearts on it, which I played excessively, 1 and 2. Trying to think what other games. Devil May Cry. Like it was the PlayStation 2 would be my next favorite, and it sucks because I never got a handheld console as a kid. My first handheld console for me was a DS. So like I never had the ability to play any of the Pokemon games or any of that kind of stuff on Game Boy because like my mom, I was like pulling teeth to get her to get me anything, and I think like 1 year she got me an Xbox, and that was like the best thing ever.
like Halo.
Exactly. And then Halo 2 when it went online, and I was like my online name was like Guitar Chick 73. So I got to deal with all of the trolls who were like, "You're a girl, you can't play."
Real.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I used to love the PS2. I think that was kind of I would probably put that as my first, only because I was like super into Kingdom Hearts 2. To the point where like I remember I was dating a guy at the time who had one, and like I literally would invite him over just so I could play this.
You had your priorities set.
I was like, yeah, it's good to see you. Did you bring it? I want to play it, and then just like sit there and play it. Like I was the opposite of that stereotype of like, oh, my boyfriend is sitting there playing games. I was like, yeah, I'm the girlfriend that's here playing games while you're watching me. That was like, I'm embarrassed by that, but like
that's awesome. Why would you be embarrassed? Do that. Own that shit.
I feel like the PlayStation 2 is like the most popular system ever. I believe it's the most sold system ever.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I do believe that. It was my favorite system of all time. I actually still have it. Like, you mentioned Devil May Cry. I love the crap out of Devil May Cry. I didn't get it at first. I remember seeing it in a Game Informer magazine. I was like, this looks really dope. And then for whatever reason, I didn't get them until like the end of the PS2 lifespan. But that was, one of my favorite trilogies. Of course, the GTA games, Red Faction, Max Payne. Resident Evil 4 is the one I played most. I remember when it first came out, it came out exclusively for the GameCube, and I was so mad because I did not have a GameCube. But I like several months later, it came out for the PS2, and me and my friend, I don't know if you've ever, I'm assuming you played it because you kind of looked a little excited. But Brianna, I don't know if you ever played RE4.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, I've seen it played, but I haven't played RE4 either. I've just seen it. I love the Resident Evil series, but
yeah. Well, there's this part I won't spoil just in case you all ever do, because they do have remastered on the PS4. But there's this part at the very beginning that scared the crap out of me and my friend. And like to this day, like I could still play it and it doesn't get old. Like I probably beat that game like 20 plus times, and I'm not even joking, because there's a special weapon you can get. Probably it's like your second playthrough. I think you get it, and you literally could just go through the campaign and just mow through like all the enemies and bosses. So it's you could beat the game like in 3-4 hours. So it
Oh wow.
Wow.
yeah, but that was one of my that was my favorite console. But I do have the N64 still to this day. I have GoldenEye, which is the the most popular game ever for that system. And I do have the Game Boy Color as well. I was playing the crap out of the Pokemon Blue like a year ago,
Mm, I love
and
it.
that was just as fun as I remember, because I didn't think I would enjoy it as much now as I did when I was younger, because the graphics are pretty bad. But it still is such a fun game, and like doing like the hacks and getting like the unlimited master balls, and getting all like the legendary Pokemon, that was fun doing that over again.
I hate that I lost my Game Boy, so I could have tried that because I heard that was something that, and that hack was old. I mean, I think I learned about that one back in like 2009, and we could get unlimited. And I think that was a thing up until like it was like blue, red, yellow, and then sapphire, silver and gold. I played a lot of these. I played pretty much all the Pokemon games. Like, I'm still on the DLC for Shield, so I think they did that all the way up until probably Yellow. I think that was the thing until Yellow.
See, I played Yellow. I think I played Gold, but then I kind of started getting out of it around then. I did get back into it when Pokemon Go came out. I was constantly out walking around this lake that we have by our house. And, oh my God, I got a tan. I'll tell you that. I've never been so tan in my life. But
Got people outside though. That was
it did.
the cool thing.
It did.
So
And
yeah, question that is, I guess, wrestling related. Since you've been probably wrestling a while, you've probably you've seen the good and the bad and the ugly, I'm sure. But what are I guess I would be interested to know. Trying to figure out how to phrase this question. Like, what are a few things that people may not know about wrestling and kind of like the industry and the work that goes on with wrestling from your opinion and from your perspective?
So I've only been around wrestling for a year and a half, or like a little over a year and a half now. I started in January of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really, y'all are gonna laugh, I didn't know what wrestling was until the end of 2018. I honestly, my family, I never grew up around it. I thought the Scorpion King, I thought that's who The Rock was. Like, I didn't have any perspective of what wrestling actually was.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard of Hulk Hogan and, like the big names, but I didn't actually ever sit down and watch a wrestling match until 2018. And so when I first discovered it and I started watching it, I was like, man, I could do this. Like, this doesn't look like it's that difficult to do. I'm athletic. I could get in the ring. I could do it, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And man, let me tell you right now, wrestling is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And it's not just because of the physical, because taking bumps and all of that, it takes a toll on your body, right? It's the mental. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is wrestling is not just a job. Wrestling is not just a fun thing people do. It is a lifestyle. And if you're not eating right, going to the gym, taking proper care of yourself, training, studying tape, for me, meditating, like putting yourself in the right mental and emotional state, like it's dangerous. I mean, wrestling is dangerous on its own, right? But if you're not giving it more than 100%, then you need to be giving wrestling more than 100%, because you are risking your life every time you get in that ring. And I think that that's something that people don't realize. And like I said, the mental and emotional toll, like wrestling has been one of the hardest things for me mentally and emotionally, with the people that I've had to deal with getting over my own failures, with even just the mental, like when you're in that ring, because there's nothing like ring cardio, let me tell you. Like, cardio is one thing, and then there's ring cardio, which is like all the way on the other side of the spectrum. You can do as much cardio as you want, But as soon as you get in that ring and you start running those ropes or chaining or doing any blow up drills or even just running a match, it'll blow you up. Like it will blow you up to the point of like puking especially if you're not conditioned. So it's one of those things that I'm just like, it messed with me mentally and emotionally to the point where there were moments where I would sit in the shower and I would cry, and be like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get over these mental barriers and these mental blockages that I have? And it's made me a stronger person. Like and not just like physically stronger, but mentally and emotionally stronger in how I deal with my day-to-day life. Because now I don't take BS from people. Because I'm like, like if I can handle the world, and it's really just been beneficial, and it's one of those things that it's a challenge, but once you start getting to the other side of that challenge, or every time you work through one of those failures or one of those challenges, you are that much stronger because of it. And it's the hardest thing and the best thing that I've ever done for myself. So
that makes sense. I'm sure there's, people, I think more probably look at, the physical toll it does take on your body. Because you hit the nail on the head of like, conditioning is one thing. I did conditioning back in high school. I remember how grueling that was. And to now look at myself as a 26-year-old who still does cardio. I know if I went back to doing conditioning for volleyball, it would tire me out. But like I think the type of conditioning for wrestling is probably that times like 100. But then also having to deal with the mental part of that, I think a lot of people don't think about, all doing that and trying to balance, that as a job and where you're going to go in the future. And, am I going to be okay in the ring? Will this be the last match I ever have? Will people still remember me? Will my job value me? That probably takes as much mental toll as like, taking any of the kind of bumps, physically. So that is a really good point.
Yeah, and it's also too like your relationships, your family relationships, your personal relationships, like because you really give everything to wrestling, and you sacrifice a lot. It's not as bad now as it was then because we've got video calls and all that kind of stuff. Like we can still stay in touch with family. But I know, like for example, I was supposed to go spend Thanksgiving with my family this year, and I can't because I have a show the next day. So I had to tell them, I'm sorry, like we rescheduled, we moved stuff around, we figured it out. But I had to tell my mom, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't be there. I have an opportunity that I need to be at the next day. So it's just not going to happen. And I'm very fortunate that my boyfriend is in wrestling with me, because if he wasn't, we would never see each other, because we see each other in training and when we go to the gym and like if we go to the same shows, but really, and we live together, so it makes it easier. But really, like if we didn't live together and we weren't in wrestling together, I don't think I'd ever see him, just because of how much time you're in the gym, you're training. Yeah.
So I have to ask about the mental toll, like, because I know you would think that the more you deal with something, the better you'll handle. But a lot of times, like, things can really break people mentally. So, like, I know you mentioned meditating. So, like, other than meditating, like, what do you do to kind of, like, handle the stress, that wrestling can mentally do for you, just to, so you can, like, keep going and, and all that?
Working out's a huge thing for me. Like, in fact, I just finished working out. I'm going to go work out after this call too, because I have to finish my workout. But working out is a huge mental thing for me, because it really helps you get focused in the zone, and it really helps you work out any of your problems that you have in the gym. The other thing I do is I wake up, and most mornings, like 90% of the mornings, I have these affirmations that I have saved from like YouTube or other things. And so I literally, like, the first thing I'll do when I'll wake up is I'll play my affirmations. And they're confidence affirmations, they're success affirmations, they're affirmations for self-love, just like things like that, that I just, as soon as I wake up, I play them, I listen to them as I get ready, as I take my dog out. And, the rest of the day, I'm like, I am beautiful, damn it. Like, I am a badass. I can do this. And it really helps. Like, meditating and affirmations, like, I'm a huge fan of that stuff, because it's your brain and your mental health is just as important, if not more important, than your physical health. So I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I went and worked my ass off in the gym and then came home and, just didn't take care of my emotions and my brain. Like, it's just as important.
Yeah, like me personally, I feel like it's more important because once when you like get scarred mentally, it's hard to get rid of that. Like when it comes to like your physical shape, you can get a little out of shape, but then you can fix it and start working out and you can kind of get back to there. Like a lot of people, not everyone can get back mentally. So I understand that that's extremely important to take care of yourself there. I mean, like you mentioned, like going out to the gym and all, I like to go for walks. That's like a good mental detox for me. Video games, ASMR, stuff like that, like can really help. I know wrestling's a little different. You might need to kind of be a little bit more intense. Like I don't know if a walk would necessarily, be the best mental detox. Like me, like working out, like you mentioned, may be a little bit, better and all. But yeah,
Well,
like what'd you say?
walks are great. Like that, I mean, honestly, like sometimes before a match, like if I'm stressed, I will go for a walk, or I will put on meditations on my headphones and go for a walk. Like that helps a lot. So
Yeah,
Basically,
because
yeah, it's kind of like your mental, exercise is doing that meditation and doing what makes your brain happy and what, makes you feel better. It's like working out your brain.
basically, yeah.
yeah, because like for me, like it's not necessarily the exercise and it's being able to be out in the open and just kind of just let everything out kind of thing. If I'm doing like a whole bunch of push-ups or something like that, it doesn't really help me because I'm too busy thinking about how tired my arms are and stuff like that. So like the walks are perfect for me. But I
Yeah,
do notice, like, I hear a lot of people talk about how therapeutic, like, exercising is and going to the gym and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's like, it's kind of two birds in one stone. You're taking care of yourself physically and mentally at the same time. And I know, like, taking care of yourself physically is also very important for a wrestler and dieting and all that kind of stuff because there's a difference between, like, being a football player, baseball player, than being a wrestler because it seems like, wrestlers take a lot more bumps and stuff like that. So, and it's, the training and all is just like crazy that you all have to go through. So like kind of like another question. I'm sorry, Brianna, if
No, you're
I'm so like what do you do like when it comes to like your workouts and diets that help you stay in wrestling shape?
So right now, I'm currently doing this program. There's this girl online, Rachel. Oh God, it's a Jean. I can't remember her last name, but she has a program called Bodied by Rachel, and like I can't fully afford a personal trainer because they're very expensive. So I'm doing this personal training online program, and I'm really loving it because it's got she's a little app, and it's got daily workouts with it. She's got a ton of different meals in there. She already sets up your macros for you and gives you recipes. And so I literally just have to. I don't really have to think about it. I just have to do it. And I've already gotten in like so much better shape just doing it for the past couple months. So I'm super excited to keep doing it. And then on top of that, uh, I train 3 to 4 days a week. I wish it was more in the ring, doing things like chaining, working on blow up drills, in ring cardio, just running stuff. In fact, like today, I'll be doing jump rope and then core and then in ring exercises as well. But the other thing too is I'm really trying to focus on my footwork because we are fighters at the end of the day. So I'm also doing things like jump rope and ladder workouts and stuff like that to really get my footwork up to par so that I don't trip over myself and look like a stupid person in the ring.
You have oh, this is my other question. So say money wasn't an issue, money wasn't a problem, your time wasn't a problem, what would be like your ideal cosplay?
Oh God. This answer has never changed. It has to be War from Darksiders. I've always wanted to do a female War, and I started on it. But yeah, maybe one day I'll finish it. But that's my dream cosplay because it would cost thousands of dollars and take a lot of time to do. But man, it would just be so badass. I'm gonna do it one day.
What would be the hardest part of completing it? Like what would you think would be the hardest part of completing?
He has a sword called Chaos Eater that is it would be as tall as I am, and it's like it would be like this wide, and it would legit be like 5'9", like height wise. It would be really tall. And I want to make it light up, and it's got the sword itself is actually it's very sculptural. It's covered in a bunch of like moaning and yelling faces on it, and so it would be really cool to sculpt that. And then in the first game, you can put different I can't remember the term from, but anyways, you can basically enchant the sword with different things, and so it glows different colors. So I wanted to add that, like on the inside, LEDs to make it glow a different color. So
Nice.
that would probably be the hardest part of that build because it's huge and has electronics in it, and I would need to make it not weigh 1,000,000 pounds.
I know you can find LEDs though on like Amazon, and they're like $12.
Yeah.
So, do with that as you will.
One day. One day.
Yeah, because I've looked into LED lights. They're not too expensive. I know at the Five Below they have some. I've been wanting like to put them on like my gaming shelves and stuff like that, so I could have this like really cool like setup in my game room. Like I have one of those like LED kind of things under the PS4 where you plug it in. It's not only as a fan to keep it from overheating, but it actually like lights up and it's pretty cool. But that's something that I've been wanting to do. But it would definitely look cool like with the cosplay and all that. Like you would definitely have the spotlight on you everywhere you go.
Yeah,
It would be fun. It'd be fun. One day.
One day. Well, I hope to see it. I hope to see it one day.
Me too.
My last question for you, I don't know if you have any more questions, Brianna, but I have only one more. So you said you got back, or you not back in the wrestling. You said you discovered wrestling basically in 2018. How did you discover it?
Total Divas.
That's how a lot of people found it. That's how, like, if I talk to certain people about wrestling, they'll be like, "Oh, because that show with the twins, like that show." And it's as funny as it is, it really did kind of give light to that world for a lot of for probably a lot of guys, but a lot of girls that you talk to, like, they know wrestling from that show.
Yeah. It really put a spotlight on women's wrestling in a different way, like, because it made it more accessible to the general public. And because my friend came over to help me with my costume at the time, and she was binge watching it, and I was legit making fun of her. Like, I was like, "Why are you watching this reality trash? What is this?" And then I went through a bad breakup, and I was like, your brain? And then I was going through a bad breakup, and like, I was just binge watching TV, and there it was on my Hulu, and I was like, well, let me just see what this is. Let me check it out. And I couldn't stop watching it, and I literally was like, these women are amazing. Like, they're like, they get in the ring and they beat the crap out of each other, right? And then they're doing all these really cool gymnastics in the ring, like it was just like mind-blowing to me to see these women do this. And I was like, I need to do this. Like, what is this? And then from there, I realized that it was WWE, and that there's Raw and SmackDown, and so I started watching Raw and SmackDown on Hulu. And then I was like, oh my God, sorry, allergies. I was like, oh my God, I really need to do this. And so I actually found a school in Austin, and that's when I started training. So I actually, I watched wrestling a little bit before I started training, but I really didn't start watching wrestling and discovering what wrestling really is until after I started training. So it's a weird, it's not a normal, I've been watching all my life. No, it's so when people are like, how long have you been watching wrestling? And I'm like a year and a half. How long have you been training? Like a year and a half. That's kind of it. It'll almost be 2 years for wrestling, but
right.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't have to ask the whole, what got you into wrestling? I was able to ask in a different way and still get the story. I think that's a neat story, learning, about that. In Total Divas, a lot of people don't realize how that got a lot of, people in the wrestling, whether they're actually became wrestlers or fans. I know a lot of people that I associate with on Twitter, they got back into wrestling because of Total Divas. And I know you saw yesterday, Brianna, me and P always be debating over the Bellas and all, but they actually did have a big part in a lot of people getting into wrestling. So it's I kind of I always tease, my one friend from this podcast called Those Wrestling Girls. She's the biggest Bella fan, and they do all these outside things. They have Total Divas, Total Bellas, their wine company, YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. She always, brings up the fact that WWE is more than just a wrestling company. They're entertainment. They have all these outside projects they do. And I'm like, well, no, it's all about the wrestling and da-da-da. And she kind of explains these things to me you know, all these different things have a factor in people like getting into wrestling and stuff like that. So it's like I am guilty of, you know, not looking at it that way sometimes, but yeah, like Total Divas, it, you know, it definitely has, it being a reality show, there are a lot of people who like that stuff. I've never been able to get into reality shows, but, you know, I did watch and enjoy it for a little bit, I'll be honest with you, because I thought it was cool kind of seeing like the behind the scenes kind of stuff. But, yeah, like, I mean, that's all I got to say about that. Like,
Well, I mean, Total Divas was around for a good couple of years. I mean,
I think like 2013 or something like that.
yeah, I mean, they were at least, yeah, I'll probably say that or you know, late 2012 or something like that. So, you know, it had a lot of time to make a lot of impact. And the best thing ever for it was to put it on, you know, TV instead of like on the network or something, so that you know, people outside of this world could see it, experience it, and that would get them into wrestling. So it is really good marketing in that perspective. I think my last question though would be, I know that you had a previous podcast interview where you were asked, like, you know, who would you like to wrestle? You said Becky Lynch. However, let's say Becky Lynch is pregnant.
Yeah.
And you're not able to wrestle her right now. Let's just say you're not able to wrestle her right now. Who would be, you know, runner up?
God, there's so many. I won't lie to you. Like, it's funny because, like, I said Becky, but there's really this, like, long list of people. I mean, Asuka is GOAT, so I kind of, she's, like, pretty high up there, top of the list. But I also love heel Bailey, and I would love to get in the ring with her. I think that would be a crazy, insane learning experience. Yeah. And then there's Io Shirai, who's just a complete and utter badass, and like I would love to get in the ring with her. And then if we're gonna go with like whoever, Kota Ibushi would be another one, like a top one on my list, because I've been really digging a lot of New Japan lately. So there's not just one. And then on the independents, there's Kylie Ray, who I would love to get in the ring with because she seems like so much fun. So there's a long list. Like, I won't lie to you. Like, it's no longer just like one. It's like there's all these badass women. And then, of course, like if intergender is a part of it, it doesn't matter. There's a list of, you know, another list there. So if you're going to make choose,
yeah. I would like to see, like, if we were going to do intergender, I would probably say you and Kenny Omega, only because you guys both like cosplay, and that would be so sick to watch on TV.
I would die. I think I would actually die if I had a match with Kenny Omega. Like, if I tagged or had a match with Kenny Omega, that would be, yeah, I don't know. Like, it would be fun because, like you're saying, the cosplay stuff, but that would be.
Yeah,
that would
be big into it, and it's like you're big into it, and I could definitely see like a company, whoever that company would be, like, you know, banking on that and just like make it that kind of match. I would watch it. I would 100% pay for it. That's pay-per-view material right there.
Hell yeah. Hell, just give me a couple more years to get better, and then because right now I don't think that would like. It would be better in a couple years.
Well,
that would be really
possible though. So
it is. Anything is possible. Keep that. It's gonna happen one day. It's gonna happen one day, and like maybe, you know, if I get in the other brand, maybe they'll have an intergender match with Kushida because, you know, Back to the Future is like the best thing ever.
That's true.
Yeah, we need to get that trending on Twitter, you know, maybe today, because you'd be surprised you get something hot going on Twitter. It actually can happen in the wrestling world, because I think that's what happened with Thunder Rosa and AEW. I may be mistaken.
But that's Thunder Rosa.
So you're VertVixen. Like, we could still make this happen if it gets enough attention, you know. Like, I'll tweet about it and we'll see where it goes. But yeah.
Okay.
But at least Kenny Omega can kind of like know who you are, and it can kind of get into his head, and they just keep pushing it, and maybe we'll see what happens.
We'll keep pushing.
Who knows? Like I said, I'd probably die. So just write rip Vert.
Because like that's the one cool thing about AEW. They do give their wrestlers some kind of freedom to wrestle on the indie, so it's not like it can't happen, or you
That's
could
what I
actually have a
want.
match at AEW as well. I don't
Yeah.
have they done any intergender wrestling yet?
They have not. I don't
I
think
don't think
they're really
so.
against it either.
I
Because
don't know why not.
I could see it happening because WWE's
Yeah.
done it, and if any company wouldn't do it, it would be WWE. But they've done it plenty of times throughout the history of the company. So
Yeah.
AEW is the kind of rebellious company who kind of breaks the rules and does some crazy stuff. So they got to do it sometime.
Hopefully one day, right? Because I think intergender wrestling is amazing. Like I think it's really cool to my favorite match that I've had so far. It would have to be the one where I had against my boyfriend Prince Adam, because we literally just, I mean, he pushed me and we beat the shit out of each other and had a great match. And I can't wait to run that back. But there's something so much fun about intergender wrestling. Like it's just different. Like I love wrestling women, but it's just different to have an intergender match, especially intergender tag matches. Those are fun. Those
Yeah,
are a lot of fun.
right. It's been such a taboo, I think, for so long, and like, I can only imagine what it's like. It's one thing to watch it, but to experience it, I'm sure is on a whole nother level.
It's different. And yeah, we should have more intergender wrestling. It should
I
be
agree.
too.
Make it happen.
Yup.
It still feels fresh in the wrestling world, and because about almost a year ago I went to a indie event, and every match was intergender, and I thought it was like the coolest thing because that was the first time ever witnessing it live, and it's amazing seeing like the women hold their own against the men, and it shows that they can do exactly what they do. So I thought it was really neat seeing it.
Well, wrestling is wrestling, so intergender, women versus women, man versus man is wrestling, so let's just wrestle and have good matches.
Yeah, just have a good match. That's all people really are gonna remember. I mean, of course, the shock factor of it all, but yeah, I'd say let it happen.
For sure.
Yeah, do it.
For sure.
All right, well, I think that wraps up our interview. You didn't have anything else, Brianna?
I do not from the notes. Nope.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun. Like, I feel like majority of the time we were talking about like video games or cosplay, and I like that because a lot of people get to know more about you and your person, what you'd like to do personally and stuff like that. Like, because like you said, like you get all the the basic questions. What got you into wrestling? What are your goals? Who do you want to wrestle? Stuff like that. So I think it's fun. It's kind of like going off script, and I like that.
No, for sure. For sure. Should we mention Vision Pro, the tournament?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know when y'all are releasing this, but
yeah, that O-Phase Wrestling, we are sponsoring it, and I'm excited to stream it on the Title Match Network. I won't be able to go live because it's in Texas, which is extremely far away. It's probably like a 24-hour drive from where I live, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see you wrestle there, and yeah, I mean, I really like what Thunder Rosa is doing with Mission Pro. I love women's wrestling, and that's what they are, all women's wrestling. So it's giving women a platform to do something amazing, and I could see Mission Pro going like really far. Like maybe one day they'll get a TV deal, kind of like WoW. So I mean, I think it has the potential, and having Thunder Rosa as co-owner, I think that definitely gives it a great opportunity to get there, especially because she's really she's always been a big name on the indies, but I feel like she's really exploded within the last few months with the whole AEW thing. So I could definitely see that promotion going far.
yeah, she's definitely exploded. And I can tell you the last event, the Hell Hath No Fury event, was just a bunch of bangers. And so this tournament out of hell is like going to be even better. So if y'all haven't seen it yet, well, you can watch Hell Hath No Fury on Title Match Network. And if y'all haven't, like you said, you can watch it live on Title Match Network. But if you're in Texas, then get your tickets before they sell out. I think there's still tickets available. I don't know. It's limited number, so.
I want to go to Texas now.
Yeah, Brianna, you need to go stream it because I watched Hell Hath No Fury and I thought it was a really fun event. So I do know because she sent out an email. I'll be able to watch it for free. I'll see if she'll allow Brianna to get a free subscription as well for this month if you're
Alright.
interested in watching. I know it's going to be on Friday, so you'd miss SmackDown, but it's
I
worth it.
normally miss it.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. It's like, we're like the opposite. You watch Raw and I watch SmackDown, basically.
I'm always doing something on Friday. Like I'm like Fridays normally, I work throughout like Monday and Friday. So like whenever I can get like a evening where I don't have to wake up early, it's like I'm out somewhere. Or so it's 8 o'clock hits and I'm like, oh no, it's SmackDown. I guess I'll keep up with Twitter, see what's going on. So yeah.
Mhm.
I need to work on that.
I mean, yeah, there's so much wrestling. It's hard to keep up with it all, so it's understandable.
So much wrestling now. So much wrestling.
And I'm not complaining, but it feels overwhelming not being able to keep up with it. And when I try to watch AEW and Impact on demand as much as I can, but I can never keep up.
It is a lot. It's
But,
at least 3 days.
But VertVixen, did you want to share any social media, your Twitch platform, and all that?
Yes. So you guys can find me on Instagram at VertVixen, Twitter at VertVixen, Facebook is facebook.com/Alicia Cosplay because VertVixen was taken. But if you look up VertVixen, it comes up, and it's twitch.tv/VertVixen is where I stream. And I've been a little lax on the streaming because I've been training so much, but I'll be getting back up on the streaming as soon as I can here. So follow me to be prepared.
All right, everyone, make sure you follow her on all the social media platforms. I do, but I do not follow you on Twitch. So I'm actually going to go do that right after this recording. And then also make sure you all follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search O-Face Wrestling and we will pop up. Thank you so much, VertVixen, for joining us today on O-Face Wrestling. And, of course, Brianna, thank you for joining me with this interview. It's always fun when you're able to get the time to co-host with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, VertVixen. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for tuning in to O-Face Wrestling. Make sure you sub us, like I said, and tune in for next week's episode as well. Have a good one.
Bye.